Oh, today we have an extremely rare item on review, weighing a kilogram and then some, the flagship of its line. From 2005-2009, a dream for many audiophiles who consider Japan an oasis of quality sound. Meet the top-tier Denon PMA-SA1, which is the successor to the famous S1 model. The name itself implies the meaning sensitive. Today we will examine this beauty from all sides, talk about the design, functionality, take a look inside and maybe even listen to it. But I can't promise that. Note that in 2006 this amplifier cost 8,000 euros, which is a substantial amount even by today's standards, not accounting for inflation. Currently its price on Avito is on average 300, 400, 250,000 rubles. This particular unit was provided by my neighbor Alexei from the audio sector. He has a huge number of vintage items, so feel free to reach out to him. Everything is of excellent quality, just like mine. So if you need rare audio components, once again, AudioSect, Alexei, a big hello to you. We speak as it is, honestly, without embellishments. Denon is not as well known a brand as Sony or Panasonic, but it appeared earlier and is one of the oldest Japanese companies. It is for a moment 114 years old. And the employees of Denon Kabushiki Gaisha, as they are called in Japan, have immense experience accumulated over this time. Although, personally, I am not a fan of the Japanese school of sound. I acknowledge that their knowledge is simply colossal. And they have a greater wealth of experience than most competitors from the same Europe or America. But in modern realities, experience doesn't matter as much. Therefore, Denon has long ceased to be an independent company and belongs to the American holding company Sound United, which acquired it in March 2017. It's sad, but that's life, friends. Now, essentially, Denon is not really Denon anymore. It's like, again, Volvo is no longer Volvo. How many such examples are there? Please write in the comments. Don't forget to subscribe to my channel. We have a group working on Telegram. We publish exclusive content there, so you are welcome. And remember, friends, if you need advice on stereo, home theater, or playing music in a cafe or restaurant, write to me. Write, friends, I will gladly help and offer great prices. My experience is a decade and a half in professional activity, and if we talk about overall experience related to audio equipment, well, since childhood, friends, what interesting features does the S1 offer? The manuals state that it is a balanced amplifier with a push-pull UHC circuit and ultra-high current. Apparently, Denon decided to compete with rivals from Audiophile, who also produce heavy and low-power integrated amplifiers. For example, the Audiophile E650 weighs about 25 kilos and shows a power of only 30 watts at 8 ohms, while delivering 150 RMS at 1 ohm. However, these are rather dubious figures that are hardly applicable in everyday life. Audiophiles will definitely find this useful. The problem is that Audiophile is primarily considered the top league, while Denon is not associated with premium. Company employees themselves say that such amplifiers are hardly sold outside of Japan. Officially, they are not supplied to places like America. Therefore, on foreign forums, people who haven't heard such devices wish to purchase them, but usually only find them through resellers. The official dealers sell the PMA series. I have a special relationship with Denon because I've had a lot of their products in my hands, starting from the very basic ones, like the 720, I think the 800, the 1520. I had the 2020, which later got burned out, and of course the 110. At home I have the anniversary AVC 110. In general, I love Denon. But there's a catch, friends. Well, how do I love them? It's not that I love them with all my heart, but I just think they make good quality products for relatively little money. But again, a real-life story. A client asked me for an amplifier that plays great rock music. I recommended to him he had a PMA 110. I suggested the Primaire i35. I think even without the Prisma Reed 35. In my opinion, even without a prism. So, the Primaire easily outperformed the Denon 110, and the person called completely shocked. How is that possible? A smaller, slimmer Primaire, which is essentially twice as light as the Denon PMA 110, completely outdid it. That's Class D for you. Although, again, I'm not a fan of Class D, but this PMA series and this one too are not made to shock. What else is interesting about our unit? It's the volume potentiometer. It is high precision, sealed with an accuracy of ±1 dB at 100 dB attenuation, which significantly surpasses regular potentiometers, whose accuracy was about ±3 dB at -60 dB, at -60 dB of white noise. Together with gold-plated conductors and contacts, this ensures extremely precise and low noise volume adjustment without signal loss at different levels. But there is a nuance. The power is only 50 W at 8 ohms with a harmonic distortion of 0.07. Although QFast claims Class A with similar specifications, Denon does not mention this characteristic, just 50 watts per channel and that's it. Is this enough for universal use? Probably not. In short, what is Class A? Transistors, they are always in an active state, even if there is no signal. This allows for clean amplification without distortion, but it heats up the amplifier significantly, my friends. Well, you understand, right, that the transistors are kind of always charged, meaning no matter what signal you give, they will work at maximum. But in Class AB, it's different. A small case from life from my experience regarding Class A and AB. I installed Bowers for a client. It was in Krasnodar 802D3, as I remember now. Huge, serious acoustic systems of amazing quality. The client had 2 monoblocks from Denon, also at 110 or 100 volts. Denon PQA, I think 4400 or something similar. 2 golden monoblocks, half-sized, meaning about half as wide as this Denon. But there are 2 of them with a preamplifier at 110. We connected the Bowers 802 and the sound wasn't right, but the client liked it and said everything was great and he would take it all. But I know how the 802 should sound because I'm an expert on them and have them at home. So I said, wait, we'll reveal your speakers to almost 100%. At that moment, I brought a Bristol 4B Cub, connected it to his preamplifier and source, and he immediately said he would buy everything, no doubt. It was just a different sound, different control, even though the 4B Cub is 300 watts. At 8 ohms, it seems like a lot, but not quite. In general, it was just super. The person was clapping his hands, bought it immediately, didn't even ask for a discount or anything. And he said he would just throw away those Denon monoblocks. There you have it, Class A. I think it was Class A. Correct me if I'm wrong. Well, let's quickly go over the design because I have something to say. I'll move the laptop now. By the way, look, everything matches the color perfectly. Taiwan, Japan, learning from each other, so to speak. Let's take a look. The front cover, or rather the top cover, both are made perfectly. It's impossible to find fault. You don't want to touch it. It does resemble a washboard that my mom used in the 80s, but a more upscale one, let's say. We have 4 bolts on each, totaling 8. And look at the facade. It's much thinner than I believe in the SA1 model. So from the front, cool, but this volume knob is quite controversial, finished with some kind of wood. Probably fancy, Japanese. We select the source, accordingly the balance, either normal and rick out. That's basically it. Oh, no, wait, friends. You can adjust the balance. In my opinion, it's an absolutely unnecessary feature because why do you even need balance? Why do you need balance adjustment? And nobody in indie does this. This is if you have different acoustics, but again, listening to stereo on mismatched acoustics is not a great idea. If one is further away and the other is closer, to adjust, but that's also practically impossible. In general, please write who currently uses balance, and what do we have? EQ power. Q is an equalizer, right? Correct me if I'm wrong. And, of course, the button. Let's quickly turn it on and see if it lights up or not. Once again, we checked everything to ensure we're definitely connecting through the transformer because if you connect it directly to our outlet, it will be very, very bad. There are no fuses at the back, as is often the case with Japanese equipment. Although Europeans and Americans often like to include an additional button, which can sometimes be very useful. Well, let's press it. Will there be a beautiful backlight on the volume knob like in the SX1? No, friends, I think not. Or will there be... Place your bets. Oh, there we go, it's on. Let's try switching it around. No, well, that previous Denon, I hope you watched the review, it was somehow more adept. In my opinion, this one is quite simpler, although it seems to play more assertively in its approach and style, I think. Alright, let's look at the back. What's at the back? Turn it off. Take it out. And flip it over. There's something to see because the very interesting quality terminals allow you to connect both spades and bananas without any issues, but they seem less convenient to me because on the model I tested, they are positioned horizontally, whereas here they form a square, which is not always convenient, although they are spaced out enough for you to access them from all sides without any problems. What else do we have? balanced inputs, which is really cool, but there are only 2 of them here. Although overall, I'm not sure why you would need more. Although if you have, for example, a processor and a source, then yes, 2 would be fine. And here it's simpler with the phono preamp. It's kind of without switching here, without fine-tuning, because in the SX there was a button that allows you to adjust your vinyl more precisely, although I don't like vinyl and try not to listen to it at all. What else do we have here? Well, there's RCA and accordingly grounding and rec out. Everything, friends, is done great. Take note, made in Japan. There's a number indicating it has been checked, complete feng shui. But how this thing sounds, we'll talk about that a bit later. Before that, let's open the lid and look at its insides. No embellishments, friends. For this, we'll need a screwdriver because Denon, as always, has foreseen mystical, right? Some kind of ghost. Damn, huh? The Japanese spirits want to prevent us from opening this device, but we'll do it anyway. Inside, everything is done perfectly, as always. This is truly top-notch. Even Akupei's Luxman might envy certain aspects, like this transformer, which we can't even see. It's so tri-dimensional because it's filled with some kind of liquid. On top of that, its casing is either made of aluminum or cast iron, and this whole construction just looks mega fundamental. Why is this done? To further reduce vibrations, because transformers hate vibrations, they hate shaking, they prefer to be fixed in one place and not be disturbed. Moreover, there's also a pedestal, most likely made of copper. And all of this, yes, makes for an extremely, let's say, robust and low noise construction. Plus, there will be less interference because, again, this one is more powerful. This is, again, the Japanese Spirit, a very powerful casing. But the wires, unlike the previous Denon, you see, they are not braided. They just go like this. A huge downside. This thing is not repairable at all. Next, the capacitors. They are not check-on. It says Denon and a maximum of 85 degrees Celsius. Again, they are in such a casing, friends. Take a look, also in some kind of cast iron. Everything is also mounted on plates, most likely copper or copper-coated. Because, I don't know, this seems like aluminum to me. The entire structure is divided into several sections to further reduce interference, because here's a section, here's a section, here's a section, here's a section. But 2 radiators, friends, they are inside the, so to speak, case. They are not, let's say, placed outside the case, as most European top brands do. Everything here will, so to speak, simmer and cook in one pot, a copper plate with transistors attached to it. In general, everything is perfect. It says Denon, and here we have some AKG inscription. Well, you look at it and understand how coolly the Japanese assembled everything, but why does it play so weakly? But why? Friends, explain it to me. It's been explained 2 weeks with it, and how does it all play? Naturally, we only connected it to a step-down transformer with 50 watts per channel, and you can feel it right away because I connected them to the FLS 50 Meta, and they can't control, yes, even these small bookshelf speakers, because 50 watts is really not much. Yes, you might say, why do you need 50 watts? Yes, we listen at 20 watts in an apartment. Friends, yes, I understand everything. In theory, you can also drive a car with 50 horsepower around the city, and it might seem enough to you, but when you drive a car that can develop 400 horsepower, believe me, it's a completely different driving experience. It's an entirely different thrill. It's a different thrill both in the city and on the highway. Even though I don't like speeding, having extra power is cool. That's why the top manufacturer, the same great Dan D'Agostino, who was the founder of Krell, the light is blinking. Did you see there's some kind of magical atmosphere here now because of Dan? Maybe he was mentored by some wizard. So, he makes amplifiers as powerful as possible, but not just for the sake of it, friends. All of this has been tried and tested. A more powerful amplifier will still deliver a better sound, all else being equal. And there is an answer as to why these devices are not imported to America. If they were that great, Americans would buy them. But no, their competitors just sweep them off the shelves in their own country. The same Class A Bristol Boulder. All right, that's a different price category. In general, there are plenty of companies that can compete with this Denon. And despite everything inside being perfectly made, this device absolutely refuses to play dynamic, powerful music at high volume. It cannot control the acoustic systems. KFLS 50 Meta did not appeal. I am not even talking about the reference series or the R11 series that I connected. Well, there's just no chance. It plays well, but as soon as you increase the volume a bit, distortions start to appear. And I don't understand the concept because, well, Acouphase positions itself as class A, whereas here they don't mention any class, probably class AB. So, what did I like? Traditionally, jazz plays well. I listened to my reference album, everything is fine, everything plays well. The trumpet, the piano, everything is perfect. You turn on Rammstein, the album Zeit, Zigzag doesn't play, Adieu doesn't play. What do we have? Deutschland, the album, and the first song don't play. Radio, well, more or less. The second song is something like Madonna's Hard Candy. Again, my test album doesn't play. George Michael, Jesus to a Child plays. If you compare, for example, SA and SXA1, these are very similar amplifiers, very, very similar in sound, let's say. What I liked more, strangely enough, was somehow this particular unit, even though, for example, its wires are not in a braid. Well, that is, the other one is made somewhat more fundamentally. It has a thicker front panel. It seems to me that it's assembled, well, slightly better, although these parts are not copper, but here perhaps they are just painted to look like copper. So who is this amplifier for? Who needs it? Probably for people who listen to jazz, who listen to vocal instrumental ensembles, possibly even singers. There you go. It will suit. If you are a fan of hard rock, hardcore, so to speak. If you love drum and bass, although I, for example, don't listen to it, then this device is definitely not for you. Listen, friends, come to me, compare without any problem. However, again, as an art object, as a device with history, as a perfectly assembled device, I repeat once again, dissonance, everything about it is good. You can't find a flaw with a fine-tooth comb. You open the lid. The engineers obviously worked hard, but maybe this is the meaning of Japan because just like the Russian soul, it is very difficult to understand. The same is true with the Japanese. On their market, yes, it sells, but behind it, there is no one. So I didn't understand it either. Maybe I just don't understand it. Either I'm still young or I just don't listen to the right genres. But I like a good assertive delivery. I like it when you feel the control of the acoustics at low volume, because then you'll have less room resonance and you don't need to prepare the room perfectly. If you have precise control over your acoustic systems, this device won't be able to give you that control. Unless you have speakers with some kind of super sensitivity like 100 decibels and some bookshelf speakers, then yes. But again, the price is very high, meaning there are many competitors in this budget range.